Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Sorting Hat Podcast, the show where everything and anything can and will be sorted. I, as always, am your host, Michael Barryte, joined by my co-host, Reed Brice.
Hey, Barryte.
Yes, Reed?
Why do they call them forget-me-nots?
Why do they call them forget-me-nots?
Because they're boring. Hold on, I'll get it. Because they're boring and they're boring giant. Hey everybody, welcome to the podcast. Let's get
Immediately stumbling over Latin.
Oh no. This is why I refuse to read these Harry Potters, because half of the stuff is in Latin.
Just the spells are like Latin-esque. But anyway, the basic conceit of our podcast is that we are joined by someone who is very knowledgeable or a fan on a certain subject, and then we sort things within that subject into the various houses of Hogwarts. Today, we are joined by Nina Vuoso, who is a naturalist and outdoor science teacher. Welcome to the pod.
Hi, everybody.
Hi. We actually have a long-standing history together,
Yep.
Nina and I. We've known one another since middle school?
Whoa.
Well, we technically met when we were like 5 and maybe 6.
Yeah, but like we didn't really hang out.
But we didn't really hang out, except maybe you came to my house and watched a Miyazaki film.
Yeah.
What was little Michael Barryte like?
Pretty hysterical, really smart.
Yeah. Okay, so nothing's changed.
And very like confident, especially on stage. So
Okay, maybe some things have changed.
Nina's like Michael smart. Nina is smart and you're going to be showing that off. You're an outdoor science teacher now, which is like, I remember going to outdoor science camp.
Mhm.
And so I have to imagine now that's at least some of what your job entails, like kids who are coming specifically on field trip sort of things.
Yeah, so it's Los Angeles County Outdoor Science School, and we have kids come to our campus that's up in, we have 2 campuses, one's in Wrightwood, one's in Malibu, and kids will come up, they're usually 5th or 6th grade students for about a week, and we hike them around and supplement their science education that they're getting in the classroom, but outside. So I get to go on hikes and teach not just science concepts, but mostly science skills. And it is actually the same outdoor science school that I went to as a 5th grader, and you also went to as well, I think.
Oh, wow. This is great, because I probably have a 5th or 6th grade education in science at this point. Whoa, Michael, is this our first, are you our first legitimate scientist on the show?
Legitimate scientist, yes. We did have Alexis Simpson, who's a tutor, and we went over the eukaryotic cell.
And I mean, she'll tell you otherwise, but she's not licensed to practice any medicine or... No.
But...
my liver still hurts. But we're legit, baby. We got a real scientist. This rules.
Well, I studied science in school. My bachelor's is in nutritional biochemistry, but I don't do science. I don't do science research.
Gotcha.
I definitely consider myself a teacher of science. And, really like when you're a teacher, you're kind of a co-learner, which sounds really like corny, but that's how I see my job, is I get to just learn constantly.
But see, you're already clarifying and making things more empirical than they would have otherwise been with my hyperbole. Because I'm like, I'll just lie all the time on this podcast.
And be like, yeah, it's science, but that's dangerous territory, because people will be like, oh yeah, that's science. And then you look at it closer and you're like, didn't have enough data points.
In case you haven't been able to gather it thus far, Nina is a Ravenclaw.
Super extremely Ravenclaw.
Yeah, dude. You're
I am
like
also a Ravenclaw. Reed is a Hufflepuff. So going forward, when we are sorting, those are the biases in play. We are sorting plant families.
We are.
Yep.
And just to read through the 8 which you provided me, there is Brassicus, cucurbits, mints, roses, nightshades, asters, grasses, peas, and spinaches.
Basically, yeah.
Okay. Those are only 8 of many plant families.
There's so many. And I'm not a botanist. Botanists and plant scientists who do this work are so... They can go really deep. Like, the more that you know about plant families, the more you realize you don't know. Like, it's quite a rabbit hole. So there's a lot of people who are doing some really, really amazing work in like plant genetics and in botany right now. I am not one of those people. So this is some basic like intro.
Right. So You're a big fan of
Definitely.
botany.
Yeah.
And so these are some of the plant families that you are most fond of.
These are plant families that are most agriculturally relevant. So my other job when I'm not an outdoor science teacher is I'm a farm educator. And I've been doing that for a really long time. That's how I got into teaching science outdoors, as I was running a school garden. So these are the plant families that are most agriculturally relevant. So they're ones that like we eat. And that's a lot of what we'll be talking about is like different vegetables and fruits that we eat that are actually all related to each other.
Oh yeah, and I hope I learn about some ones that I shouldn't be eating, because that's a real hazard. That's a real possibility for me.
Yeah.
So let's start with Brassicus.
Okay, yeah. I have a
Roman emperor. Oh wait, nope, that's incorrect.
I have a clarifying question. Do you have any dietary restrictions? Things that you can't eat?
Recently, in the last year, it's become more and more apparent that I have an intolerance to garlic, and
wow.
and it's I want to kill myself.
Oh my gosh,
it's in everything that tastes good.
Yeah, I didn't throw that family on there because that family is actually really complicated. Like some new research has like taken garlics out of this family, and lilies are now no longer a family or something crazy. But like garlic, leeks, and onions, like they're all part of this. It's not even a family. It's like a genus of alliums, and they're all related to each other. So I don't know if you have any problems with those things too.
I don't think I eat a leek often enough. Chives I get like on top of rice for things. I'm gonna do some testing when I go home.
Yeah. So those are all related to each other. So that I'm glad that we talked about that because that's something that is really helpful to know like about plant families.
Mostly I'm just like worried I'm becoming a vampire, but
if
it's just like maybe a relationship to the plant itself, I should know.
I think you have too many freckles to be a vampire.
Thank you. That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me.
No problem. So Brassicus.
Brassicas. So I guess before we jump into plant families, it might be useful to be like, what is a family?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And why are we talking about families as opposed to like other clades? Like, why aren't we talking about genus? Why aren't we talking about kingdoms, right? So if we go back to like some basic like biology, we learned that like all living things are kind of organized and classified by how closely they're related to each other. Mm-hmm. So we know about like genus species, right? Like as human beings, we're hanging out right now, we're Homo sapiens, Homo being the genus and sapiens being like the species, right? Mm-hmm. So there's other species in the genus Homo, but they're all extinct. So like Homo habilis and Homo erectus, they're like some of our like ancestors, right? We're most closely related to those animals, but they're now extinct. The next group above that is the family, and that's Hominidae is that we're in, and that's basically like the great apes. So then we're also related to like, the rest of the great apes. So that's like the level of taxonomy that we're talking about.
The whole thing of, I came from monkey, so I am a monkey. That's how evolution works, right?
Yeah, exactly. So like if you go back far enough, like we're all related, but some things are more closely related than others.
And like, can you link us all the way back to these plant families? Is that how connected everything is?
Like millions and millions and millions of years ago? Yeah, we can. Whoa. That's probably when we were like at the one cellular level.
Yeah.
But yeah, science has shown that basically, we come from some unicellular soup stuff.
We're gonna get Kirk Cameron on next week so that he can argue these points.
So at the point that photosynthesis sort of was introduced, that's when like a real schism was happening.
I think so. Like we look at the differences between animals and plant cells, and when was the last time that those things were like had a lot of stuff in common. Mm-hmm. It was just a super, super long time ago.
Right.
Yeah, some of us were like, I want to eat light. And other people were like, nah, I want to eat the rest of you. And that's what we were like, all right, agree to disagree. We went our own way.
Yeah, or like there was this one cell that was like, hey, little bacterium, you are green and you can make energy out of light. I'm just going to eat you entirely and now you're a chloroplast.
Yeah, and then they were like, I don't like that, but I'm going to somehow never make it so you can know that like I'm screaming in pain. I'm always wondering if like a plant is like going through the most worst trauma when I'm just like cutting up an onion. I'm like, oh God, I'm murdering this thing.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that. Well,
it's probably been long dead by that time.
Yeah, well,
and it's just like a part of its body, right?
It is. Yeah, it's like a part of its body, and there's a lot of research that's
it gets
being done.
creepier the more I think about it.
There's a lot of research that's being done with regard to like plant. I might be digressing a lot here, but this is like kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Like plant communication and how plants like communicate with each other. And there's this idea out right now that there's fungus that are they have like mycelium. So like you think about like plant roots, they're kind of like plant roots, but they're in fungus instead.
Yeah.
And they like will link up one plant to another plant. So like the mycelium will be in really close contact to plant roots and can transfer like chemical like basically like metabolites, like things that the plant has produced and can like send like chemicals from one plant to another plant via these roots, via these like underground mushroom tunnels is what they are.
And what are they doing that for? Like, what do the chemicals do?
We don't know yet. We don't know
what?
yet. But like we'll see like one, like there's this one bit of research that came out that showed like if one plant that was like on a farm was being attacked by a certain bug, that then the like other plants not too far away will then start producing like this pesticide, this like natural pesticide within itself. So it's like, how did this one plant that's like yards and yards away know to start producing this metabolite that it takes a lot of energy to produce, right? So it's like not something that it's just going to produce on its own for fun, for funsies, whatever.
Right.
Yeah. So then this is what they think is that there's these
That's bonkers.
mycelium with underground mushroom tunnels that are like helping them communicate.
And this plant exists only for the purpose of like having like creating these connections between the other two plants.
No, because mycelium help fungus to get nutrients for themselves. So it's like this. Yeah.
It's like one of those symbiotic relationships.
Exactly.
Like what I have with Michael.
Yes.
I'm like the little bottom feeder on the shark that's like swimming but I keep you clean.
In this situation, I'm the shark.
I don't know. You just seem like the one who has your shit more together than me.
It's only because I made my bed today.
Oh, I don't know when the last time it was that my bed was made. Probably by somebody else, like my mother or something.
So brassicas.
Cool. Wow, tangents. So brassicas. Okay, so the plant family is Brassicaceae, and these are our people also know them as cruciferous vegetables. So these are things like broccoli. Broccoli is a brassica. As are other things that are related to broccoli. So like cauliflower, cabbages, arugula, radishes, so many amazing things. And yeah, so they call them cruciferous vegetables because those flowers, if you look at them when they do flower and they do produce flowers, will actually make like this little T. Like
gotcha.
Perpendicular.
So broccoli is broccoli technically a flower?
Yeah. So if you have broccoli growing on your plant, when it looks like what you pick up, broccoli from the store, that's like the ideal time to harvest it. And if you let it go for a couple more days, it's just it just opens up into a bunch of flowers.
What?
Yes.
What? What? It's like a bouquet?
Yeah.
We're eating like bouquets that have not sprouted yet.
You're eating flowers. And brassica flowers, you can eat them all, and they all taste really similar. They're kind of mustardy, they're kind of peppery. They've got these sort of like papery petals on them. Sometimes they're yellow, sometimes they're white. But yeah,
this is blowing my goddamn mind. I thought it was more like a tree situation where like what you're seeing, like these are little tiny leaves. But
you were thinking it was going to leaf out?
I don't know what I was thinking. I haven't thought about broccoli this much. I don't know why it's affecting me like this, but this is wild. And so so the rest of these sort of like edible plants, is it all about the same thing, that if you let them go longer, like they would flower? Or
yeah, so something that's really interesting about thinking about vegetables as plants that grow in the ground, like for the majority of us we think about our fruits and vegetables that we just buy in the store. We don't really think about the whole life cycle of that plant, but they all start out as seeds and they all get to the point where they're making seeds. So what do those plants look like in the meantime, right? Like what does a tiny baby broccoli look like? And this is something interesting about these plant families, is that they all kind of look the same. Their seeds in Brassicaceae, they all look like these little, they're little tiny balls. And like you've probably seen mustard seed before, right? Like you get that grainy mustard. And that's going to be your mustard seed. It's these little brown balls. And then when you plant them, the way that they sprout, they all kind of have the same look to them. Those very first leaves that come out of the seed on brassicas. They look like two little, you know what they look like? They're like little hearts, but they kind of look like if you were to put your butt onto a photocopier. That's what brassica cotyledons look like to me. Those very first leaves that come out.
Everybody in this family, like when they come out of the ground, all the sprouts are going to look pretty similar.
They all look really, really similar.
Does that make it like if you are like a farmer, you have to like not plant them close to each other?
Usually when farmers are doing their planting, they're really good at labeling and like mapping things out and knowing what's kind of where.
Yeah.
But yeah, like if you were to like all of a sudden all of your brassica seeds somehow got mixed up together and you're gonna throw them out, you won't know for a while if you have a kohlrabi or if you have a cabbage.
Let's be honest, that would happen to me immediately. I would like put them all on the floor of my room, and then a week later I wouldn't know which ones were which, and I'd be like, oh fuck, I guess let's plant these.
Yeah, and there's probably some farmers who subscribe to like that kind of farming, but
just let chaos reign.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if I even had to run a farm for a week?
That would be as enjoyable, if not more enjoyable, than Paris Hilton's that reality show where she had to work on a farm. The Simple Life.
She was like she was like pretending for some of that. All of my ignorance would be real because I'm not trying to embarrass myself any more than I already do all the time.
I know Paris Hilton might have learned a thing or two because I heard she has a pig now as her pet.
Oh.
So. Yeah.
And the other day, she did tweet. She believes in global warming and climate change when the rest of our federal government right now does not.
Thank you, Paris Hilton.
Can we just put that in perspective for a second, America? Paris Hilton believes in climate change. Your president does not. Okay, Michael, I'm done.
I gotta say, she's raising a pig. She, listens to scientists. She's okay in my book.
The bar is so low to be a decent person now.
So with brassicas, you mentioned radishes as well, which at least to me seem wildly dissimilar from cauliflower and like I think you've also mentioned arugula or no?
Yeah.
So how does that make them within the same family outside of the leaves?
So it kind of goes back to something that we were talking about before, just with regard to like evolution and how things all got started. There's a common ancestor to all of these plants, and that's they think that it's kind of similar to what kale is now. Like kale's sort of the most ancestral, I guess, of all of these. And then humans got a hold of them and were like, these are delicious, and kept the seeds of the plants that they thought were most delicious or had the traits that were most similar to them. And then in that way have selected these plants to have a certain, have certain characteristics over time. So, you could eat kale roots. There's nothing stopping you from eating kale roots except that they're not sold in grocery stores. But if you were to grow your own kale, you could totally eat the roots of them, and they would taste kind of spicy like radishes.
So kale was like one of the oldest members of this group, and like it's what.
Well, so it's one of the agricultural ones. Yeah.
So it was popular. Then we just all collectively forgot about it. And then like 2 years ago, everyone decided we like it again.
Right, yeah, it's kind of funny how it like has this huge comeback, but yeah.
But it's really been the OG this entire time. Everybody, this is wild.
Kale's actually more hipster than everybody could have imagined.
So in that regard, I'm realizing the kind of common thread in addition to the way that things will be flowering and the double leaves when they first are sprouting is a bitterness associated with all of these.
This flavor is that they all produce this mustard oil. So they all have this peppery flavor to them. And you think about, raw cabbage. We don't really eat raw cabbage typically, but you can. And it's got that kind of like peppery thing to it. It's got sulfur compounds in it that like add to that flavor. So they all have that mustard greens, right? People eat mustard greens. So they all have that kind of flavor.
Are the plants trying to deter you from eating them? Or is it more like a natural pesticide, or what's going on?
That's a really good question. That's a beautiful question.
Oh God, I'm sorry if I've stumped you. I'm just like, if I were a plant, I would probably I'd be like, all right, what should I do? I should just I should make myself not taste good because I don't want to get eaten. But then I probably wouldn't be a plant if I'm having these thoughts. And if I am, it's some sort of like Lovecraftian, like existential like thing where I'm like, oh shit, I'm
Or-
trapped in this body.
or Seymour, Little
yeah.
Shop of Horrors style,
Mhm.
right? But it's funny that you say that because they might not necessarily be conscious of it, but this kind of selection is happening anyway, right? Like natural selection is taking place whether they're aware, whether anyone's aware of it or not, right? And so why would these plants produce these compounds when it takes energy and resources in order to make them? And it has to be for some kind of reason. So a lot of plants produce, nasty smelling whatever, in order to make them unpalatable to herbivores.
Yeah.
Well, and in a weird twist, natural selection, which might have been acting as a deterrent, we then were like, oh, this actually tastes great. We're now going to ensure that much more of this
Kale.
stays.
Kale, you fucked up.
Just wait till we get to peppers. Yeah. So in some, brassicas are these like peppery tasting plants. We eat everything from the roots of them with radishes to the stems of them with kohlrabi to the leaves of them with kale and collard greens and cabbages of all
Is
colors.
lettuce different though?
Yeah, lettuce is a different family.
Why? Oh my god.
Yeah.
This is crazy.
And then we eat the flowers of them too, with the cauliflower and the broccoli.
Yeah.
They don't really produce like they produce like this little like kind of pod that's sort of like skinny. And then we eat the seeds, right? Mustard. We eat mustard. So these are all
Hell yeah, I do.
brassicas. Yeah.
I was that kid that like would eat it out of the packet, and then everyone else on the playground was like, I don't
I love
don't
mustard.
talk
So,
to that person.
Off of all of what you've said,
Let's sort.
where do you feel that this ultimately kind of goes? Because I have like an idea,
Yeah.
but I don't necessarily know, considering you have more information that you might not have dropped on us just yet. But like, where are you feeling right now?
I feel like this is a Ravenclaw myself. I don't know. There's something about the spiciness and the flavor of it that's just very kind of airy, I guess. And one of the attributes of Ravenclaw, they're up in the tower and they've got the blue color and they're associated with it. So I don't have any like hard reason why I think it's a Ravenclaw.
Oh
I just
no,
think it's
we
a
have to
Ravenclaw.
have hard reasons. You can't.
This is the most unscientific part of it, but you know what? It's wonderful.
Do you have like, are you leaning in any direction on this read?
Because I'm definitely feeling like, it's all very straightforward at the top of things. Everyone starts out the same, so there's like a standardization to it that like is very Ravenclawish. And then the fact that it's one of the foods that like humans were like, oh yeah, we'll eat this. And the fact that there's like, you said like, are there any parts of this plant family that you cannot eat, or that are like technically edible? Even if you don't want to eat them?
Not that I know. There's other families for whom that is absolutely the case.
Yeah.
They're poisonous if you eat them. But
Yeah.
for brassicas, not that I know of. That being said, I don't know.
We don't want to make like we don't want to make
somebody to get
a
sick.
statement like, yeah, just go, if it's brassicas, put it in your mouth.
But basically, if it's brassicas, you can put it in your mouth. Like you can go hiking through the
So-
woods and find like wild mustard, and you can eat it. I
Yeah,
would
so I
not say
think-
that about other.
So I feel like
plant families.
like even for that reason, they're not growing any parts of themselves that aren't like at least efficient for us. I don't know if
Mhm.
it's like the most efficient for themselves
Mhm.
in the same way. And if it is true, my hypothesis that they produce these oils as a deterrent, that would also lean in favor of them like being, thoughtful with their evolutionary process, because that's how evolution works. You can, the plants think about it. So yeah, I think Ravenclaw's probably correct.
There's a part of me that wants to at least give some credence to the possibility of them being Gryffindors.
Yeah.
Sure.
What's that?
Yeah,
And
they're very strong.
Well, they're very strong.
Very strong.
There's like a resilience to them, and there's a versatility to them that I think Gryffindors often have, in the fact that like it, and some of this is like based off of how humans interact with this family.
Right. Exactly.
That like what you were saying, Nina, of we're seeking out just not a singular, we're not just going for the root, we're going for the flower, we're going for like the stem, we're going for like all these various components.
Even mustard is one of the most versatile ingredients.
Condiments.
Yeah, like it can be used for so many things. I've even had it in desserts before, and it's worked.
What?
So
Yeah.
it's one of those things where like we don't necessarily need to land on something definitively. I just thought I would
Yeah.
throw that one out there. I can definitely submit to it being a Ravenclaw with like accents of Gryffindor, maybe being a bit more Hermione in nature.
There you go.
But in any case, let's move on to cucurbits.
Oh yeah, cucurbits. Oh,
Puke your bits.
yeah.
Cucurbits.
Isn't that I always
I put the accent on the wrong syllable. I'm sorry.
Cucurbits. I always wanted to have a cat named Cucurbit just because that name is so adorable. But the plant
No,
family,
for real.
isn't that so cute? So the plant family is Cucurbitaceae, and so this is our like gourd and melon family. So these are your pumpkins and your winter squash, like
This is your
acorn
pumpkin
squash.
spice latte family, everybody.
Yeah, I know. Happy fall. So
This
yeah.
is your basic bitch.
But also like really big staple food family too. So yeah, like I said, like pumpkins and acorn squash, but also like zucchinis and yellow squash, but also other melons as well. So all the cucumbers, right? Cucumbers.
Oh.
That's what I initially was thinking, and then you
yeah.
were like pumpkins, and I was
And
like,
you're like, wait, what? But then also like melons and honeydew and cantaloupe. So those are all in the same family. Just on that note, like an interesting thing about like a linguistic note about all these plant families is that like these are plants that humans have been eating and cultivating for so long. So there are words that go back really, really far, and we can like something that's super fascinating. Just to go back to Brassica for just a second.
Sure.
If we must.
I know we're like really tired of our broccoli, but we have these words, and they all have kind of a common like root to them in the name, right? So you have broccoli, collard, kale, kohlrabi, and all that, like that's linguistically related, and also it's just kind of a cauliflower, right? Those all kind of tie into how these plants have been moving through humanity for a really, really long time.
Fun little linguistic etymology bits.
Linguistic, etymology, artificial selection, culture, right? It's all connected, which is really cool. So let's go back to cucurbits and cucumbers being cucurbits. So these are, you think about the seed, right, of a cucurbit. You know, we're almost at Halloween. We're like a month away from Halloween. So you scoop all the seeds out of your pumpkin, and then you roast them, right? So those, how would you describe one of those?
Pumpkin seed?
Yeah, pumpkin seed.
They wet and slimy.
Yeah.
There's a sliminess to them. They've got they're hard, and then the actual seed is like within the seed because it's like it's got a shell around it on the pumpkin seed, and it's flat.
I feel like you get a lot of seeds. I don't know, maybe I just haven't paid attention to plants before. I'm like, how many seeds do you have?
Yeah, I mean that's a good question. It can vary a lot, and it can also depend on how humans select for them, right? Like there's the seedless watermelon varieties, and it's like, well,
for sure.
How did you grow that? But they just decided to select for as few
it
seeds as
defies
possible.
God's will, but
Well, I mean, yeah, plant selection is we've been basically doing it for a really, really long time. There's nothing natural about it, right? Like we have decided it's the same thing with dog breeds. So I'm
for sure.
Yeah. So that's kind of a similar seed shape that we see in those like, cucumbers.
Oh yeah, and they're tear shaped.
They're kind of teardrop shaped. Cucumbers have like a similar seed. So
Yeah.
it starts out like that. When it sprouts, and will grow like these vines, and they'll grow these vines all across the ground, or you can trellis them up, and then the fruit, we eat the fruit, and the fruit is usually has a lot of water in it, and can be hollow, and we harvest that fruit and we eat it. So basically any part of the plant that like has the seed in it is the fruit. So so that's basically cucurbits.
Is a pumpkin or one of those other gourds, is that going to be like, is that the largest fruit that exists? Is that a fruit?
Oh, yeah. So it is a fruit because it like started out as a flower. Oh,
Yeah.
the flowers of cucurbits are really amazing, and you can totally eat them, right?
Right.
Like stuffed zucchini flowers are just incredible. You can, if you've had those before. and you can like saute them up and put them in quesadillas and stuff. But they're like these huge, a lot of times yellow, like bell-shaped flowers, and they rely a lot on bee pollinators. And there's like a male flower and a female flower, and there's just these really showy, beautiful flowers.
Guys, if I think about bees too much, I start to get stressed out, like in a way of. Like,
are you allergic?
No, the idea of them
just
dying. Like if they go, we're fucking dead, dude.
Oh,
yeah.
Yes, our ecosystem is collapsing because bees are disappearing.
I do have some like positive news about that. Like
What?
there's been a lot that has happened in the last like basically 10 years since people really got like up in arms about the bee populations, just like you are right now, Reed. And so there's just like this amazing spike in beekeepers, like just beekeeper hobbyists who have learned how to keep bees, and
they're the true MVPs right
they're
now.
such MVPs. It's really, really amazing. And there's also been a lot of research about this particular pesticide that has what's called neonicotinoids in it, and it's found that like particular pesticide contributes to the colony collapse that we were seeing. That was like.
Okay. So did we like make it illegal to use it, or?
Well, now that we like know about it, then there's been a lot of like preventative measures. So like hobbyists will like have their beehive, and then I was just reading about this the other day, and they'll like try to say that they'll try to get it like certified in a certain way that will then notify like any farms around them that like, hey, we have this special crop here, it's bees, and like you can't apply this particular pesticide, for which there's like a lot of data. It's not all pesticides are bad, like that's really important to say, but this particular pesticide we know like kind of screws up the bees. So now we know about it, and there's all these bees. So bees are making a comeback.
Oh my
but
God.
I would love, for folks who know more about bees
That's
to
like
weigh
weight
in
off
on
my
that.
shoulders.
There's some comfort in that.
A little bit of comfort in that, yeah.
That's gonna be all like it's gonna be scratched off of like my 200 item list of things that like make me
Stress you.
too
So
scared.
when you go to
sleep
bed
at
tonight,
night.
Reed, just like think about the bees and how people are like helping them out, and go to sleep well.
So with cucurbits, just to shift back, this is interesting in the fact that with brassicas, at least as far as we cited, all of those were vegetables.
Yeah.
Whereas in this case, we have some fruits, we have some vegetables, at least because technically melons are fruits, right? Or no?
Yeah, well, we just have to think about, are we using the botanical definition of a fruit and vegetable, or are we using like the culinary?
Ooh, what's the difference?
Yeah, right. So like culinarily, we think about like, oh, well, vegetables are usually like green leafies and, not sweet. But we think about as fruits as providing, that element of like sweetness. I think. And botanically, there's vegetable is not, that doesn't really tell you anything about what plant part it is. Fruit is very, very specific. The fruit is the part of the plant that started out as the flower, and it was pollinated. It became the ovary, and the ovary swelled up really big, and then the seeds are inside of it. So that is a really specific botanical definition for what a fruit is.
So if there are seeds inside of it, it is
a fruit, right?
A
So
fruit.
pumpkin fruit, tomato fruit,
Vegetables very like
squash fruit.
but vegetable's a very vague term.
Vegetables super, super vague.
Wow, it's like the word entrepreneur. It's like but what is your actual job? Do you have a job? Okay, we're not having a second date. You need to tell me what you do.
Okay, so in all of these cases, then we're actually dealing with fruits.
Yeah. So the part of the plant that we eat on cucurbits is the fruit and the seeds, primarily. I really don't know. And the flower, we can't eat the flowers as well. But when we think about cucurbits, and recognizing them in the store or the farmer's market, we're talking about the fruit.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm always fascinated by?
What are you fascinated by, Reed?
It's like thinking about like stuff. At least in America, if you're in another part of the world. But I'm always so fascinated by what plants we have here naturally in what is known as the New World, and like what we like brought over from the Old World. And as I was like looking up like briefly on this, the oldest specimen of a fossil they ever found of this particular family was from here. They found it in Montana in the 20s.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So like I'm always like, what did we like infect the new continent with besides, our presence in general?
Right. Yeah. Like the colonization of food and everything. Yeah. So that's a really beautiful point, is like, what's the origination, what's the origin, excuse me, of all of these families. And so a really important crop sort of system that came up here, on this continent is the idea of like the Three Sisters garden. So you have your squashes, your corn, and your beans, and native folks in this area for a really long time have been planting those three things together, and they give those three families give each other specific nutrients. So the beans fix the nitrogen, put it in the soil, help the the corn to grow, which are heavy nitrogen feeders. They need a lot of nitrogen in order to produce their corn, elote, the ears of corn. And then you have your squash on the ground as a ground cover to help keep water in the soil. So they all, and then the beans like wind up the corn stalks as they're growing. So it's, this really amazing symbiosis that then the people here were able to like, the only word that's coming to mind is capitalize, but that's like really not the word I want to use, right? But yeah, so I'd figure out and kind of use to their advantage.
Oh, that's wild. Because when I hear
cool?
Three Sisters, I'm like, am I in WeHo right now? Am I about to see a drag act? But in fact, it's the cornerstone of like how we eat in America.
Well, yeah, it's the cornerstone of like how crops were grown, all up and down this continent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I feel, just based on everything that we've said with cucurbits, and I'm putting the accent on the weird.
Cucurbit. Yeah, you got it.
You got it.
Cucurbit the frog here.
Second guessing myself there. I feel like there's a hardiness to all of them.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
That makes me skew Hufflepuff.
Oh my gosh, this is the most Hufflepuff thing ever.
Hell yeah, dude.
This is such a Hufflepuff plant.
Like fall, especially like, are most of these, are you going to harvest in the fall? Because I know a lot of, your pumpkins, your squashes.
Yeah, your winter squash for sure. Zucchini obviously are really popping during the summertime. We think about watermelon is really, and the melons are really harvested during the summer, cucumbers too. But yeah, definitely like your late fall or your late summer to fall crops.
And do you think
Absolutely.
like the selection that like humans helped along with like to create these different varieties, or like how they like naturally occurred? Do you think it's because of like how plants just like were like, okay, I'm gonna start sprouting at this time? Like, do you think that had a determination, like when they would like grow?
Yeah, sure. I mean, so if you think about like cucurbits in particular, you like the plant has its leaves out and it takes all of that sunlight in through its leaves, and it uses that sunlight and the water and the carbon dioxide to make sugars, and then it puts all those sugars into the fruit for whatever reason, right? As some food for the little baby plants to grow, as the seeds come out and then you plant them, and so they put some food in there for the baby future, and then but then also the melon is super sweet, and so some animal might come along and be like, sweet smelling red thing, I'm gonna eat you, and then poop out your seeds someplace else. So there's definitely like a reason for why these things are happening at what time. So like summertime, most of that long days, really intense sunlight. So that's when you're going to have the most sugar production. Yeah. And then, we can get into other plant parts later.
But these are sweet, and Hufflepuffs are sweet, and I'm a Hufflepuff, and I'm a squash. We
might be able to make the conceptual leap that the pumpkin spice latte is the drink of choice of Hufflepuffs.
Are you kidding me? Of course it is. Like, it's basically just like, I wish I could be eating pie right now, but I have to look like I'm a sophisticated adult, and I can't just walk around with... Yeah, I can't just walk around with a piece of pie in my hand.
I can't drink a pie.
or can you?
Oh, I've definitely had a pie milkshake before. They're great, and I'm going to die at 40.
Amazing.
So sticking in sort of a desserty mode with mints.
Yeah, let's go mints. So mint family is Lamaceae. And this... part of it is mint, but also a lot of herbs that we think of. These are all in the same families. Okay. So we're talking about like all the mints, like peppermint, spearmint, whatever. But also basil is in this family. And
like rosemary
Sage.
or thyme.
Yeah, rosemary. Yeah, absolutely. Sage,
I did
rosemary,
that perfectly.
And like the true sage, like the culinary sage, like not like sagebrush that we have here in California. Like that's in a different family. But yeah. And so we're like, wait, what are things that all of these plants have in common? And that
Is it their leaves?
Yeah, they're
And
leaves.
you can eat them.
You can eat them, and all those flavors, right? They're all herbs. They're really strong flavors. They have these incredibly scented oils, right? And the way that they grow as well, they have these stems, and if you kind of rub the stem between your fingers, it has kind of a square shape, which is sort of a defining characteristic.
The stem is
the actual
square-like?
stem is like sort of rectangular. It's got angles on it. It's not
a prism.
round. Yeah, and then the leaves grow opposite of each other, so like two leaves will come into the exact same point on the
and
stem.
then they just are like getting the hell away from one another,
yeah,
basically.
like 180 degrees opposite, and then the next leaf that'll come up would be like 90 degrees rotated from that. So it's very square. This is very square, sort of.
That's very interesting. So it's really architecturally sort of trying to like. This is always the way we run, so there's like kind of a crisscross going on all the way up. That's interesting, which is already making me be like, this is a Ravenclaw
Maybe, yeah.
family.
And then,
but please expound more.
Yeah, I like that interpretation of it. And then there's also like as the stem comes up, when it produces flowers, the flowers come in this pattern called an interrupted whorl. So you basically have like a puffball of flowers, and then more stem will come up, and then you have another puffball of flowers, and then the stem will come up, and you'll have another puffball of flowers, all on the same stem, kind of like a string of beads, but there's space in between them.
Yeah.
Interrupted whorl is
Isn't
an
that
amazing phrase.
Yeah.
Just like on its own, if there were a band
I was gonna say.
named that, like
It also kind of sounds like a Pokemon attack.
yeah,
yeah, like a Porygon or something.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But I feel like it'd be one of those joke ones that like doesn't do anything.
Oh, so you're thinking it would go to like Dunsparce or
Oh, well, you've lost me. Moving back to families.
It's a Gen 2.
It's the
fine.
Bard. Yeah.
I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
The Bard Pokemon.
Too busy in high school.
I
I wasn't getting laid, but I just wasn't playing Pokemon.
Okay, so it's got an this interrupted whorl.
Yeah, these really, really amazing flowers on them.
Whoa! Mint is also referred to as dead nettle, right?
Well, so nettles are also in the mint family. Yeah.
Whoa, that's
Like stinging nettles.
That's like its goth name when I went through a goth phase in high school. Don't call me Mint anymore. I'm dead nettle. Mom!
Get out of my room, Mom.
Take me to the Galleria.
You need to stop playing AFI so loud. We're trying to have dinner.
You need to let me live my life, Dad.
Enjoy December Underground.
Eyeliner.
Hell yeah.
Okay, so
This is amazing.
so they're like
Yeah.
these little puffs that are in like spaced out up the stem.
Mhm. Yeah, so those are the flowers. But those, those leaves are kind of sort of pear-shaped-ish. It's got a point to it. Some of them have little kind of hairs on them.
Mhm.
Right? You think of stinging nettle and getting hit by stinging nettle. That's quite a sharp little thing. So yeah, but those and then these are our herbs, right? So our culinary herbs that are very strongly flavored and scented and got those oils, and you add just a very small amount of them to your food, and that's like a primary flavor that's coming through.
And in this case, because at least when I think of mint, I'm only thinking of the leaves that we're using for culinary purposes. Are we using the flowers as well for any of these, or is it predominantly the leaves themselves which are excreting the oils?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not that I know of. Do we use the flowers? It's those oils are really mostly in the leaves. I only see the flowers like there's a particular variety of basil called Thai basil, and it's purple and it's really beautiful, and it's got these beautiful purple flowers on it. And just from what I've seen, it kind of will bolt quicker, so it'll go to flower quicker. And so a lot of times when you buy Thai basil at a farmer's market or something, it has the flowers on it. It's very pretty. But yeah, I don't.
So flowers don't
mint flowers,
necessarily have a
meh.
function, at least from a human standpoint.
Yeah, at least from our standpoint, but they're obviously really important for the plant's reproduction.
Right.
Yeah.
Like this is like these things called aromatics, at least in like the food world, like they really are like they are so underrated in terms of their importance to good cuisine. Like it's wild to me like how white people colonize so much of the world to get these spices and then still don't know how to season their food properly. But like it's only now that like even in the fine cooking world that like they're really starting to experiment with how aromatics can be like their own like unique quality to a dish, not necessarily just like helping something taste better, but like to be part of the experience. Like at a restaurant, like I don't know, like you're a Linea, you'll have a Shots doing something that's like almost barely you're even eating anything, but you like might cut up on a pillow and get like an aromatic coming out of you. And I just think it's so cool. It's like the part that gets overlooked in cooking so often.
It's very sciencey, continuing to hold to this Ravenclaw lean.
Yeah.
But you're getting a Ravenclaw lean on it?
I'm still leaning Ravenclaw,
Okay.
but I feel like you're about to rock my world with something.
I mean, I feel a little bit like this might be a Slytherin kind of planet.
Okay.
Just because it's like kind of I just get like I don't want to like play into the Slytherin stereotypes of things like being really dark, but it's very upfront. Like it's a very ambitious flavor, right?
And,
like it's super
true.
strong in that way.
If you've ever added a little bit of just a little bit too much of something, you can ruin a dish. Or like it's going to be like if you add like oregano or rosemary or something, it's gonna be the star of that dish.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. I mean, though, like both Ravenclaw and Slytherin have many overlapping traits, so I'm not feeling too burnt in giving that one up.
Yeah, no, I think it's really important to like think about like how what the similarities are between the houses, right? Instead of all the differences that like push us apart. Like now we're all together. But yeah, I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I don't subscribe to like the Slitherclaw and the like Griffin Puff, like
fuck
hybrid
that noise.
Yeah, I'm not about
hate
that.
It. It's like just make up your mind.
The sorting hat was there to make up the mind, right? Like you could argue
you didn't have
way.
any people in two different houses. I don't know. I'm just old fashioned, I guess.
I think that I'm the same. Yeah.
You're so wildly conservative as far as sorting goes, while both being very liberal individuals. Otherwise,
this is a made up wizard thing, so I'm okay with that. I can come to terms with that.
Oh, all right. So now we're on to roses.
Yeah, Rosaceae. So,
roses are their own thing?
Yeah. So Rosaceae is this super broad plant family. There's a lot of wild roses, but this is like
they can't be tamed.
They
not
can't
by
be
any man.
No, wild rose,
just like me.
So they're like all of our stone fruits. So all of our fruits that have a big pit in the middle, like
peaches, nectarines,
plums. Yeah, great. Yes.
I didn't
almonds.
So those are wait, almonds?
Yeah.
Almonds are roses?
Yeah.
What?
And strawberries.
Strawberries are roses?
Strawberries are roses.
What?
Yeah.
I never would have associated a peach and a strawberry and an almond to be the same.
Yeah. Well, and they're not the same, right?
Well, they're not the same, but they're within the same family.
Within the
like
same
I would
family.
never think that they were under the same umbrella.
Right. And so
explain yourself, Nina.
This is actually dovetails really nicely from what we were just talking about, which is like you can think about the differences or you can think about the similarities. So with all of these plants, you have a flower, and for this one, it's like the flowers are really important and really diagnostic. There's you look at the flowers and it's got 5 sepals. So those are the like modified petals that support the petals. Then you have the petals. They're all modified leaves, right? So you've got the 5 sepals, 5 petals, many and numerous like stamens on them. And then for a lot of the plants in this family, they'll then produce this little fruit. And if you've ever opened up like an apricot pit or a peach pit, inside there's this thing that looks just like an almond, and that's the seed. And so an almond has this outer shell on it. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. So it's got this outer shell on it that has to be cracked open.
But Michael, even apples are.
Oh yeah, apples. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that I forgot apples. Yeah, apples is in that family too.
So then pears are as well.
Yes. Yeah. Wow, I knew I was forgetting a big one.
And quinces that I don't know if I've ever actually seen a quince before.
Yeah, they're like big apples.
So cherries are.
Cherries. Oh yeah.
Durians.
Oh, I don't know about the durian.
It's fair.
I know that it's really smelly. Or it's got a very distinctive strong
Mangoes
flavor.
would though be?
No, mangoes are in a tropical family. They're in a different family.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. As far as I know, they're different.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I was just thinking it's
They've got that giant bone. You're totally right. Like inside of it. And same with avocados. I'm pretty sure avocados are in a different family.
Okay.
Right, with that giant pit. That pit that's really solid. Right. All of these ones. Those pits are kind of, they got wrinkles on the outside. And then you
That's
slice them
true.
open.
Yeah,
and
there's
it's got
that
something in the middle.
distinction. But
Yeah.
okay, and this is like they're all in the same plant family as like the bouquet, the romantic bouquet of flowers
Of
that you
roses.
give somebody.
Yeah.
Wow.
So then roses have this different number of petals on them, but they've got this woody stem. Frequently they have this like really woody stem.
for many of the fruits being a tree.
For many of the fruits, it's a tree. Yeah, I actually didn't remember about strawberries, but I just was looking it up on here that it's in the Fragaria.
It's really wild that strawberries have their seeds on the
Genus.
outside of the fruit.
Berries are super complicated. I don't even want to get into it. Like
Oh,
I don't
I'm
understand.
sorry. Wow.
I don't want to talk about that.
She got annoyed.
No, I didn't get annoyed. They're just like, that's that one thing where like once you start down the rabbit hole of like berries, it gets super
Me on
complicated.
Wikipedia any day is just me going like, oh, that is a link connected to it. I'm going to learn about that.
What I'm also curious about is that when we say roses, we immediately go to these flowers that have thorns
Yeah.
on their stems, but all of the now that I think about it, I think strawberries do have some sort of like small thornery,
They can have
but
little hairs on them. Yeah, they can.
so I wasn't sure if that's like an attribute necessarily associated with the family, or it just is like uniquely to the flower that is not in the rest of the family.
Right. Yeah. So like something that this family has in common is it has this thing called a hypanthium, which is this cup-like structure that's composed from all of the petal and the sepal and the stamen bases. They kind of make this like cup. So if you were to take a rose, like any of these flowers, and like slice them in half from like the top of the petal down to like the stem, you would see this like cup-like thing.
Okay.
But then there's just so much variety in terms of the fruit that they can make. Yeah.
When I was a kid, my first crush I ever remember having was on a cartoon character called Tuxedo Mask on the anime Sailor Moon.
Oh my
and
gosh,
he would always
yes.
throw a rose that was like his signature move, and it would like pierce the ground. Who were your guys' first crushes?
Oh man.
It was like even if it's something really weird, who's the first person or like even a fictional character that you're like, they're so special.
Yeah. So something that I always kind of think about is as confusing early queer Nina times is like, do I have a crush on her, or
do I just appreciate you,
or do I want to be her?
Mhm.
And so I remember in Space Jam, there was the
Lola Rabbit.
Hell
Bunny
yeah!
Rabbit.
Here we
was
go.
Like, she came in and she was just like, obviously supposed to be this. She like subverted this whole like sex object trope, right? Because then she came in and she was just like, yeah, whatever, boys, watch me play basketball really well.
She wasn't there for them. She was there to play the goddamn game.
Exactly. So I was very like, oh my god.
And you know what?
Yes, don't call me baby.
This is completely like probably pseudoscience, but it's just like a theory that I've formed in my little gay head. Because that's a very common thing for queer people, like reconciling their queerness is like when they are younger, like not being able to tell if they were like attracted to somebody, even like separating sexual attraction,
right,
from like romance or just respect. And I think, I don't know, there has to be something even to sexual or romantic attraction where you just think a person is so great that you're like, I want to fuse my genetics with you. So in a way, you almost do want to be them, but just in a future generation.
Whoa. I've not heard of that. I love that idea.
I don't know. It probably has no scientific backing to it, but I do think that like that really, it just really does tie. It's like just something like this person's very existence becomes important to you, becomes to the forefront of everything.
Yeah, if only we could all be polymorphic space rocks and then do
Dude,
dances
I say
and
that every
fuse
day.
with each other.
There's not a day that goes by that I'm not like, make me polymorphic space rock.
This wouldn't be a Nina podcast if I didn't mention Steven Universe. So
and then Michael, so like Lola Bunny, Tuxedo Mask. Well, what was the first thing that you were like, oh, I like you?
Mine was Carmen Sandiego.
Oh
Hell yeah!
yes.
Oh, it was that sexy hat and trench
Mysterious
coat.
woman who just traveled the world.
Yeah, I think
Emotionally unavailable.
it's really playing into like, oh, now I'm always searching. I'm always searching.
Oh my God.
Like I actually had to think about it for a while because I was like, I don't have many like celebrity like character crushes
you
really.
ever even see her face?
I don't like,
Who cares?
but I was
She
thinking
had
about
that
it,
hair,
and
man.
like Carmen Sandiego was like a name that came up, and I was like, yeah, there was like a weird attraction there, and I don't really have that many memories,
So
but for
Mike
whatever
was
reason,
looking
that's
for
the one.
a tall, potentially Latina, emotionally unavailable woman who looks good in red. So if you're out there, ladies, slide into the DMs.
And
But
looking
Carmen wouldn't do that.
at our list, we
sort
still
rosacea.
have. We still need to sort
We need to
roses.
sort rosacea.
Yeah, where are we feeling that these fall, or is there more to unpack?
Is there any more important information in determining what a rose
Oh,
is?
so I would definitely
any
mention
name? about
them that these seeds can be poisonous. They have cyanide.
Oh.
They have cyanide in them to a certain extent. Sort of somewhat famously, Alan Turing committed suicide by, saying that he had eaten this like poison apple kind of thing. There's this trope of this poison apple that's gone like sort of through history. And there's some truth to that. The idea with Alan Turing is that he actually like injected it with a little extra. So that was kind of swift.
Yeah.
But so you can eat every part of the apple. Fruit, right? That little part at the bottom that looks kind of funny, that's the leftover flour of it. You can absolutely take a bite out of it. People don't eat their apple cores. You should reduce waste, whatever. But
you can, I've tried before, like just eating through an apple.
Yeah, I do that. I eat the whole apple. I eat the whole strawberry, including
I eat the top.
including the
It's
top.
just a little extra
The
fiber,
little
guys.
leaves?
Whatever, man.
Yeah.
Huh.
The sepals.
Wild.
Yeah.
And but like, so at what part of the apple would be the poisonous part?
Those seeds. So don't eat the seeds. And if you eat 5 seeds, whatever, you're gonna put some cyanide in your body. All it does is it binds to your hemoglobin in your blood. I'm gonna get super nerdy here for just a second.
Yeah.
All right, biochemistry. Here we go.
She pushed up her
I
glasses.
did.
By the
I
way.
learned that was ASL for nerd.
Yeah.
Is you push up your glasses up your nose. So, you.
They instinctively just do that when they see me. That's why I have them saying hello.
Hey, how's it going? Nice to meet you. So cyanide, it's just a carbon bonded to a nitrogen. It gets in your, you eat it and then it gets absorbed from your stomach or your small intestine, goes into your blood. It binds to the hemoglobin in your blood, which is in the red blood cells. The hemoglobin, the job of the hemoglobin is to carry oxygen and carbon dioxide through your body so that when it gets to the lungs, carbon dioxide goes out, oxygen comes in. And there are a few things, unfortunately for us, that binds better to hemoglobin than oxygen does. So that's why carbon monoxide is so poisonous. Is carbon monoxide, you breathe it in and hemoglobin's like, get out of the way, oxygen.
Oh,
I would
God.
like that carbon monoxide. And cyanide does the same thing. So it binds up your blood, and deoxygenated blood takes
So
on
it's
this
like a toxic relationship.
it takes on this it's less
sexier.
red.
It's sexier to the hemoglobins, but it's bad boy. And it's gonna just cause trouble.
Yeah, trouble.
It's the James Dean
Ugh.
of chemicals.
Yeah. So if you eat a little bit of it, it's like a tiny amount of your blood that's going to be compromised, and then it gets metabolized by your body. It goes away. So if you were to eat some, you're going to be able to process it through. But if you eat a lot all at once, then it's bad news, which is how every chemical is. The toxicity and the poison is just in the dosage.
But you would have to force feed somebody a lot of apple seeds before they would probably be
This
in
is
a
going to
bad
be
place.
your homework, everybody. Figure out how many apple seeds.
God.
But don't do it as an experiment. Just go look it up on
please don't
Wikipedia or whatever.
Nobody kill themselves from something we've said on this podcast,
Yeah, no,
please. I'm
please.
asking as a
or
personal
commit
favor.
murder via apple seeds.
Okay, so that was important to know.
So I feel
yeah.
like that's an important characteristic to know about this.
Maybe
You know, like,
Gryffindor.
I was
Ooh.
thinking Gryffindor also.
Yeah. Because like Gryffindors can be just as destructive, even self-destructive. I agree. Like, because also these are like some of the heavy hitters, like of people's favorites of things.
Right.
Like,
Right. Fruit
yeah,
and
like the
strawberries,
fruits,
apples,
like
almonds.
even they're even like the best smelling sometimes. Like there's so many of these things, like oranges Are oranges? No.
No, oranges are citrus. They're
Citrus are
different.
But like apples for sure. Fucking roses are like everyone's favorite. Like, I just want to smell them.
They're very quintessential. They're very
them.
popular, right? Like, yeah.
Which is also what Gryffindor is. Whenever anyone is first introduced to Harry Potter, everyone believes, like, I'm a Gryffindor. And then the hard reality of life comes in, and it's like, you're not actually a Gryffindor.
Oof.
Yeah, but like those sort of charismatic, like popular, good capital G, things are, and I could totally imagine there being a lot of apple trees, like a good healthy apple orchard at the borough. The Weasleys
for sure.
have a long history of
and like
apple
America,
farming.
which like strives, like has always like touted itself as being a Gryffindor ass place. Like the apple is basically our national fruit.
Yeah,
If
well,
not-
I mean,
if not
the whole
officially.
Johnny Appleseed like
Johnny
mythology.
Appleseed, as wholesome as apple pie. New York is the Big Apple. We fucking are obsessed with apples. We're a Gryffindor ass country, and roses are a Gryffindor ass plant family.
And on that note, since we do have 4 more plant families to work through, I'm saying that this is a 2-parter. We will reconvene with Nina Vuoso, where we will be covering nightshades, asters, grasses, peas, and spinaches.
Oh, sweet.
Grasses 420. Let's do it.
I think that's a different family.
Nina, are there any spots on the internet that you might be found?
I mean, just my personal stuff.
Add Nina on Facebook, everybody.
Or Instagram. I do a lot of.
What's your Instagram?
It's Fenestra Vitae. This is gonna get into the whole Latin thing. It's way back when I was a Latin student in high school. Pushes up glasses again. And like online handles were first becoming like a thing. This is like circa 2003, right? And Fenestra Vitae like literally translates to window of life, which is why that's my online handle, because it's this whole idea of like, well, there's this online world, and then there's my life, and
that's clever.
So.
Mine's like that ding dingus. Not nearly as much thought.
And mine is my YouTube
I am Ravenclaw
brand.
through and through.
Yes. So you can follow Nina on Instagram. You can follow either Reed or I at That Dang Dingus or Belated Media.
What you should be doing is giving us one of those ratings on iTunes.
Yes. If you can give us a ratings on iTunes or Google Play, we would thoroughly appreciate that. And come back next week where we will be following up with more plant families on The Sorting Hat. Bye, guys.
Bye.